We're an island nation, drawn to the sea that surrounds us. For many, it's a playground. For others, it's where we earn our living. But the sea's unpredictable. It can change in an instant. And when accidents happen, they happen very fast.
On the sea, you have to expect the unexpected. It will just turn around and bite you.
Mayday! Mayday!
There to save our lives is a volunteer army of nearly 5,000 ordinary people.
When the pager goes off, we don't know what the shout is, where it is, how many people are involved. It could be anything.
Well, where do you feel the pain, Alex?
My back and my leg and my neck.
Stuart, just hold the boat!
I am so thankful that they came.
Things could have turned out to be a lot worse.
I've had people drown in front of me. Before we've got there, that person's gone.
Calm down, you're okay, pal.
Equipped with their own cameras,
My light flashing. Yeah, mine.
the crews give us a unique insight into every call-out as only they see it. Speeding through the roughest weather, searching for people who may only have moments to live.
Go!
For those who risk their lives, it has become a way of life.
The decisions we make on a lifeboat, it can all mean the difference between life or death.
Lifeboat crews around the UK and Ireland are called out to around 9,000 incidents in an average year. Almost half of them come in the summer months.
We get a silly amount of jobs. The job rate increases. We can literally have 2 or 3 jobs a day. It tends to be people that have no idea about the seaside and the situation that they get themselves into.
In Lancashire, the seaside resort of Blackpool welcomes 18 million tourists a year. The vast majority are drawn to the town's 7-mile-long sandy beach.
I guess summer is probably known as the silly season, really, because we have so many people that decide they're going to spend the day on the beaches are full. We're just so busy.
And the population probably triples, if not quadruples, especially if the weather's good. And they enjoy going in and out of the water. People get sort of onto inflatables.
We have all sorts of things. We come back bringing unicorns, balls. We get called out to lots of different silly things.
A June evening, the summer is already on course to become one of the hottest on record. Blackpool has been sweltering in temperatures nudging 30 degrees all day. Lingering on the beach, a few families are soaking up the last of the sunshine. The lifeboat station receives an emergency call from the Coast Guard. Out at sea, someone's in trouble.
First information as we sort of ran in was we're getting reports that there's a child on an inflatable getting blown out to sea. There was also information coming in that there was someone had gone into the water and was swimming to try and rescue the inflatable, but that was still sort of sketchy information as we were getting changed.
Right.
We just knew that we needed to get on the water and get out to find this person, so it was just a matter of urgency, I suppose.
It's either a broke or a lilo.
We definitely had confirmation and eyes on that there was inflatable a fair distance out to sea.
Someone in the water there?
We were told it was a child, so it was imperative that we got there fairly quickly.
Cheers.
There's the risk that the inflatable could start to go down and start to sink. Can the person swim that's actually on the inflatable, or is that their only means of flotation? Do they have a life jacket on? Although it might be warm, out at sea, and if they're already wet and the wind's hitting them, they can start to suffer cold exposure.
12, 10, 10, 12, and 21.
Strong currents and a stiff offshore breeze are pushing the girl further and further out to sea, making her harder to find and increasing the risks should she abandon the inflatable and try to make it back to shore on her own.
The they're swimming against the wind, and sometimes the wind can be stronger than the tide. They exhaust themselves, they get cold, and then all of a sudden they cramp up and then they start to drown.
We've had 2999 dinghies and persons in the water in the vicinity.
An update comes in from the Coast Guard. It's confirmation that someone else may be in the water. The girl's father, who swam out to try and save her.
We'd not seen anybody in the water, so that then started to really concern me. Is this person under the water? Have they drowned? Or have they actually made it back to the beach?
The crew are now looking for 2 casualties in the water. The station's second D-class lifeboat is prepared for launching.
At that point, we've then got a potential missing swimmer thrown into the equation. So myself and 2 other crew members got kitted up to look for this person who'd attempted to swim out and hadn't been accounted for.
We'll just search the area until they confirm they've got the father.
As we got to the water's edge, just about to launch the boat, I just asked around, I think one of the shore crews there, if anyone had seen the father.
Just as they're about to launch, the crew find the girl's father. Unable to reach the inflatable dinghy, he has swum back to shore, tired and in a state of shock.
I went about halfway and I realised she was drifting quicker than I was swimming.
At that point, he was identified. He had tried to swim out but got beaten back. There was no way in the world he was going to be able to swim out to that, and made the right choice to come back to the beach.
Any other family or just you?
We've got other family, but they're all out there.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah.
I realised very quickly that, she was going further and further back at a rate of knots. There was very little chance that I was going to catch up with her, and even if I did, I thought, how am I going to bring her back in? It really hit home that, we're in trouble here and we need some help.
Meanwhile, nearly a mile out to sea, the first crew finally spot a dinghy in the water.
Blackpool RB1, this is Holyhead. Roger, are you visual with any other dinghies drifting off over?
Is it just yourself? We'll get you on board in a second, just get your life jacket, OK?
Now, when we did arrive on scene to the girl, she was quite cold, and the inflatable had started to take on water.
Are you a bit cold? Right, let's get the bag out. Come on, sweetheart.
The inflatable wasn't really going to withstand the sea for much longer, so we needed to get her in, and I'm glad we found her, because possibly another half an hour it would have been a different story.
Can you confirm casualty is 18 years old, name Layla, over?
Yeah, confirmed, 18 years old, name of Layla. Casualty is in okay condition, no injuries, over.
I was drifting and I didn't realise that at first. At a certain point I realised that they couldn't hear me anymore, and that's when I felt helpless, and I thought, well, the only way that I'm going to get out of the water now is if someone comes and gets me.
Layla and her family had come to Blackpool on a day trip from their home in Solihull.
When I saw my dad come into the water, that's when I started panicking, because I kept shouting for him to go back, but he couldn't hear me. And I knew that for him to come after me could have meant that he could have drowned, and there's nothing I could do about it. I kept paddling. Every time I was going forward, I felt like I was going further back. I started seeing more of Blackpool. I could see the Blackpool Tower. I couldn't actually see any people on the beach. It was just like dots. I thought that there was a chance I may not come back.
It gets windy, doesn't it? It picks you up and you're off.
When I saw that the boat was coming, I cried and I said to myself, I'm going to be okay. I was just rejoicing.
Do you think you can walk to shore? How's your legs feeling? Yeah?
Yeah, we'll just pull you back. You're going in Land Rover? Yeah. Here she is, here's Dad here.
They returned me to my family, and the smile on my mum's face and my dad's face when I saw them, it was, it was really rewarding. Being able to see how much I meant to them and how much they were worried about me.
She's okay, she's fine. She's just going to the lifeboat station.
I got halfway to here, but I was drifting and you were going out further.
You've done the right thing coming back.
As soon as we'd reunited them, it's like his eyes lit up. To reunite them together is what you do the job for.
Thank you, guys.
It's all right, it's okay. You okay now? That's all right. You have a look at her, haven't you? She's okay.
There was a great deal of concern This was like, you know, a beautiful day gone wrong, you know, your worst nightmare.
Just make sure she's fine, just so they can have a chat with her, make sure she warms up, because she's been a bit cold.
I was relieved and I was incredibly grateful. I saw these guys who give up their personal time, and it just really hit home. I was humbled by that experience.
You all right? I'll see you back. Good.
People can die having fun in these inflatables. We've dealt with it. It's very harrowing, it's very upsetting, and it's something that prints on your memory. It's something that you'll never forget. So when people take these inflatables out into the sea, they need to think what they're doing. It's dangerous.
Lucky escape there.
Thank you.
That's all right, you're okay.
Let's go, don't worry.
You all right now?
Thank you.
I couldn't put into words how thankful I was, because if it wasn't for them, I wouldn't be here.
There we go. Right, have a sit down, and then we'll just do some checks on you. It was just quite nice to come away with a smile and think, we've made a difference tonight. We've saved somebody, and somebody's really happy that they're going away with the daughter, and they can enjoy the rest of their evening and the weekend. So, yeah, it was just a lovely sort of job.
Around our shores, lifeboat crews and lifeguards brace themselves for the summer months, when the British public heads for the coast.
It's often referred to as silly season, just because you get a lot of people going out during that time.
We're very well looked after. VIP treatment on holiday, hey?
We're always making sure that we're around, you know, ready in case, which is why I end up spending all my time down the lifeboat slip with the kids.
We can get shouts from cut-offs to missing kids. We do get shouts where we turn up and you get people who are partying, and you think like, wow, why did you just put yourself in that situation?
I've got you. Come with me. Ready?
Some people never know when to stop, and then bravado can come, especially for males.
It's crazy what people do, but at the end of the day, they do what they feel is right, but it might not be the right thing to do.
Sit down, sit down, sit down.
I think it's just the general British public, isn't it? It's who we are as people. We like a good time and don't think of the risks before we do it usually.
Nestled on Cornwall's dramatic north coast, the village of St Agnes has something for everyone, whatever the weather.
You know, it's a very picturesque village. It's got great access to, you know, big open sandy beaches. It's a fun place to come.
It's got a good community. It's got quite a few second homes and holiday lets, but it's got more than enough people to keep it busy in the winter.
But it's in the summer that St Agnes comes into her own, when holidaymakers and locals alike head for her star attraction, the beach.
Relationship with tourists, I would say, on the whole, is really, really good. On the grounds that, you know, they provide one of the biggest incomes to certainly the county of Cornwall. Tourism is our bread and butter.
The Atlantic swells that roll in make St Agnes a surfing hotspot. But recently, a new craze has taken hold: coast steering.
Coast steering's brilliant. So you're following the coastline just with you, a helmet, a wetsuit and a pair of trainers, doing a bit of climbing and then cliff jumping into the water.
It's an adrenaline activity that pushes your limits, and sometimes, you know, accidents happen.
July. The summer season is in full swing. Falmouth Coast Guard call out the St Agnes crew. A woman, part of a group out coast steering, has had an accident jumping from a cliff just along the coast from St Agnes. A lifeguard has made it to the scene. He's reported that the casualty may have injured her spine.
The first thing I think of is that somebody's hit some rocks and it's really nasty.
Spinal call-outs can certainly be a very life-changing situation if it is the worst-case scenario where somebody has broken a vertebrae and damaged the spinal cord, because that will change their life forever.
The station's inshore lifeboat is on the water in 10 minutes. For medical emergencies at sea or on the coast, lifeboat crews are often the first on the scene.
We do a CAS care course, so we're all trained in first aid, and it is an incredibly good course.
Fortunately, today's crew includes a doctor and a paramedic.
Aside from the fact that there's a slight sense of relief from the crew, it's obviously going to provide the best care for the casualty.
In my day-to-day paid job, I've seen thousands of spinal back injuries of all varying shapes and forms.
The adrenaline was just pumping. As a doctor, I was aware people might be looking towards us to be taking the lead a little bit on this.
I'm not going to land, I'm just going to drop you guys off, yeah?
When we arrived on scene, there was 2 people there from the co-steering team and the lifeguard.
Got the kit? Got the handheld?
Got a handheld. Okay, when you're ready.
Okay, go for it, guys. In neutral. Yeah.
As Ed and Paul wade ashore, their first sight of the casualty only increases their concern.
The casualty was complaining of severe pain and pretty distressed and upset when we got there. We were most worried that she'd broken her back and also had she injured her neck, which makes things a bit more difficult and also is much more serious.
Yeah? The tide is coming in fast. The small cove will soon be completely flooded. The crew urgently need to get the casualty to hospital. But with a possible spinal injury, they can't take any risks when moving her.
Things that can go wrong with a spinal injury is you can cause further damage and or paralysis, long-term damage. We need to be careful here. We need to really watch this situation.
On the beach, Ed and Paul strap the casualty to a spinal board to support her back and keep her immobile for the journey to hospital.
Getting somebody into a boat with a spinal injury, many things go wrong coming out of there.
Guys, just wait a minute. Set coming. Set coming.
Even a small wave could have a major consequence for a spinal injury.
Just wait, stay here, straight.
Set's like a series of 3 or 4 waves normally that are bigger than the other ones, and so it's important. I sort of felt important to let that go through.
Wait.
If we'd walked the casualty down and a set had come through, that could have been, you know, more unnecessary upset for the whole situation.
Okay, good guys, let's go. Okay, guys.
The crew now have a small window of opportunity to get the casualty on board before the next set of larger waves come through.
Okay.
Rescue on the sponsor here. Ow. Well done.
Okay.
Main part of where she had some discomfort was that final lift just into the lifeboat, because obviously everybody's bringing their arms up to bring her up over the sponsor and the rubber part of the boat, and that's the bit where she did feel the most discomfort.
Okay, on move, ready, steady, move.
Move. Okay. You okay? This is.
On the right.
Okay, well done. You're in the boat. Okay.
Okay, you're in the boat.
Okay.
After the initial injury, the adrenaline is pumping for the casualty, and then at some point that's going to stop.
We're proceeding back to Trevorn's Cove.
Okay. So I got my hand, yeah, that's good. Yeah. All the way back to the beach now, nice and gently, yeah. You okay? Hold my hand. Take about 4 minutes, yeah. Well done.
First glimpse of the casualty, which is more pain than I thought she was going to be in. I really saw her hand there with a wedding ring on, and I went to just grab it and just sort of just hold it, and sort of, you know, that whole human contact, I think, is probably underrated. I think it's a really it's a massively powerful thing when people are in difficult situations. So I just told her to squeeze my hand as hard as she could, and we've been back on the beach in 3 or 4 minutes.
Well done, you're doing really well. We're nearly there. Yeah, doing so well. Yeah, keep squeezing my hand.
Reassurance is really important. Nobody strapped to a spinal board is going to want to see people panicking. So we try and have the swan approach, you know, just going through everything gracefully and calmly whilst furiously working behind the scenes, processing stuff and working it all out.
Okay, cool, nice and easy. Just straight in. It's gonna go straight up the beach, boys, straight in, just drag it straight up, straight up.
So when we landed her on shore, we were supported by the Coast Guard Rescue, who were there, and also our own shore crew.
Turn it around, guys, spin it around. Head to sea.
At low tide on a calm day, an ambulance can come down onto the beach to meet the lifeboat. But today, there's a problem.
There's no ambulance.
Oh, we thought there was.
So it could be electric.
Okay, fine. Okay.
Let's pull it.
Pull.
While the crew wait for the ambulance to arrive, the casualty is taken into the lifeboat station.
The situation is, an atmosphere is a lot calmer. There was new shore crew to talk to her, and we were continuing to assess her. She became a lot calmer, a lot more relaxed.
This is Glynis.
Hi, Glynis.
So this is Liam over on your right-hand side. Liam's going to go through some of the questions I've done and a few more. Now we're in a bit more stable environment. If anything changes in the meantime, just say. Okay, if you feel sick, if you feel more poorly, all right?
I love the sea. It just makes you feel alive. It's always moving, it's beautiful.
61-year-old Glynis and her husband Ken had come to Cornwall to tick off an activity from their bucket list, coasteering.
I wanted to do some things like this before I got too old to do them. It was great fun. I was having a fantastic time. The last jump, stepped off into midair. I remember going down, and as soon as I hit the water, I thought, oh dear, I've done some damage. It was sharp, constant pain. It was absolutely excruciating.
So the first movement's up, the second movement's onto the sponsons, then we all readjust. Everyone happy there? Yep. Yeah. Okay.
At the boathouse, the ambulance crew are on the scene. They've administered pain relief. Now they must move Glynis from the boat to the ambulance. But any sudden movement risks exacerbating her injury.
Ready, steady, left. Lower, ready, steady, lower. Okay, everyone readjust.
So it's done in commands, so nothing unexpectedly moves without you knowing it's going to move.
Ready, steady, lift. I've got it.
I don't actually like being the centre of attention very much, but there were so many people there. I couldn't believe it. They were incredible, and they certainly helped me out of a very tight spot.
Glynis was taken to hospital in Truro to assess the full extent of her injuries.
Once the casualty's gone, that's sort of it, and you're left a little bit thinking, well, what happened next, and was she all right?
I was taken into A&E, and the first lot of CT scans showed that I had a fracture. A stable transverse fracture to my L1 vertebrae. Because it was stable, I didn't need a back brace or surgery. So that was a huge relief.
We all felt that was a job very well done. All the lifeboat crew, the shore crew, massive cohesive team of people, all there for one person.
On the northeast coast of Wales, the long sandy beaches of Rhyl and Prestatyn attract thousands of holidaymakers throughout the summer months. To protect them from the strong tides and fast currents, the RNLI's first line of defence is a team of 7 lifeguards.
So the main things we're looking out for here are people who are weak swimmers. People who are weak swimmers, you'll be out there swimming around with your head down, you'll look up, and you'll have drifted 200 metres easily along the beach in about a minute.
Following in his father's footsteps, 19-year-old Matt has been patrolling the beaches here for the past 2 summer seasons.
Currently just moving the flag out to keep up with the tide, just so bathers are aware where the safe place to swim is.
Red and yellow flags mark areas patrolled by lifeguards and the safest place for swimmers to enter the water.
Self-digging flags are very handy, to say the least, especially on this soft sand. Yes, he just do that and he digs himself a hole. Easy.
A windy day at the height of the school holidays.
People were all over the beach, little pockets and groups of families. We were just sort of trying to keep an eye on everyone, but everyone was spread all over the place.
With a strong tide going out, Matt repositions the safety flag.
We were aware there were people in the water away from our zones, so one of the other lifeguards had gone over on the quad bike to check it out, and I'd come over there on foot.
Matt spots 2 girls in difficulty in the sea outside the safe swimming zone. After calling the Coast Guard, he enters the water.
When I was in the water, you're going up and down with the waves, and you're swimming out, you've got your head quite low down. You can't really see very far. It wasn't until I got close I realised these were weak swimmers. They were starting to struggle. The girls were out of their depth. I think it's a combination of the current and swimming out of their depth had pulled them out.
While Matt attempts to drag the girls from the water,
this is Denbighshire Lifeguards based in Rill.
The Rill lifeboat crew have launched their D-class lifeboat.
All I heard is a lifeguard entering the water. That's the first thing that we heard.
The crew have no idea what condition the casualties are in.
I mentally prepared for literally the worst case, casualty. It could be, a body, unconscious, not breathing. Everything else, to me, just seems that little bit easier to deal with.
They were starting to struggle, starting to tire. I'm not sure how much longer they would have lasted.
An update comes in from the Coast Guard.
The 2 persons are out of the water, conscious, breathing.
The kids are out of the water, both conscious.
Knowing that the lifeguards have got the 2 girls out of the water, it is a big relief. It's like, oh, thank God for that.
After a 10-minute sprint, the D-class reaches the beach. Matt has already called for an ambulance and a helicopter, but the lifeboat crew are first on scene, bringing essential medical supplies and oxygen.
We lifeguards, we had 1 oxygen in the cash care bag that we carry. There's also an oxygen on the inshore lifeboat, which is another reason why we called him.
The girls may be out of the water, but they're by no means out of danger.
Matt's face said enough to me, and looking at the 2 girls, you could see that they weren't right. They were quite poorly.
Do you want this oxygen on now? This one. You okay? I'm just going to give you some oxygen. Have you had one of these before? No. All right. Well, when you stay, just breathe normally, okay?
A Coast Guard helicopter is on its way with a paramedic on board. Until it arrives, the crew administer oxygen to help keep the girls stable, breathing normally and conscious.
How you feeling? Try and keep your eyes open, try and keep awake, okay? Just put your hands in there first, that's it.
The girls are showing all the signs of cold water immersion, which can be fatal.
We have several red markers, we call big sick markers, on our cards. One of them is becoming unresponsive or unconscious.
What's your name?
Bethany.
Bethany. Hi Bethany, my name's Ben. All right, you're in good hands.
When I first looked and I spoke to both the girls, they just weren't with us 100%, just away with the fairies, like shock had set in.
Your mum and dad here? What they're doing is a helicopter is going to come in and they're going to assess your 2 daughters. So try not to panic. Yeah, okay.
You're okay?
On their family summer holiday, Bethany and her sister Caitlin had been playing in the sea with their siblings just beyond the furthest flags when they got into difficulty.
I said to our George, I said, you need to come out now. I said, I am out, but the others, they can't get out. And I said, what are you on about? They went, they're stuck, they can't get out. And they were only up to the waist in water. And then, I don't know, some just sunk inside, and it was like, oh my God, you know, my kids are in trouble and I can't do nothing about it.
What are their ages?
18 and 12.
I'm not a strong swimmer, so it was just a case of legging it and getting the lifeguard to come and get them. So they've been struggling about 10 to 15 minutes, but it felt like a lifetime. The scariest part of this was not knowing whether I was going to get them back again. You know, was I going to lose them? It was not nice.
For like a long time, it might not have.
People vary with how long they can stay afloat in the water. All depends on the temperature of the water. It doesn't take long for it to affect you, and you could end up with hypothermia.
The risk of hypothermia is not the only danger they now face.
Do you know if you swallowed any water? Yeah. You're dead? OK.
If you swallowed a lot of water or inhaled a lot of water, you can get secondary drowning. The water in your lungs irritates your lungs and causes your lungs to produce a fluid, and you drown in the fluid in your lungs because you can't breathe or bring in oxygen to your blood.
Secondary drowning can be treated at hospital, but with the helicopter still 10 minutes away, the crew must keep running checks on the girls in case their condition deteriorates.
Yeah?
I'll count 10 seconds for you, OK?
All right, Bethany, I'm just going to check your breathing, mate, OK? I'm going to need to put your hand here. 3, 2, 1, go.
By measuring their breathing rate over 10 seconds, they can calculate how stable they are.
If they have ineffective breathing, so they breath starts to slow down, that's when we have to start CPR. Stop!
11.
Kept on going up and down, but once we started to give the oxygen, they levelled off and started to get that little bit better.
You still hear me? Bethany, where are you?
Yeah.
Where are you? Like, where are you?
Prestatyn.
Yeah, good girl.
The main one we were looking at for that day was that they didn't go unconscious or unresponsive.
The crew keep the girls stable until the Coast Guard, paramedic and ambulance crew arrive to airlift them to hospital.
We were all in the sea, and we were jumping over the waves, and then I heard Caitlin saying, I can't get back. I don't know what's stopping me, but I can't get back. Can you help me?
Bethany.
Stupidly, I went after her to go and help her, and I got to her, and I was trying to push her forwards to, like, I was just screaming at her saying, just swim, and she's like, I can't. We were trying to swim as hard as we could, but like, it just, like, more waves would just come and sweep us back out. All I can remember is both of us just screaming help, and then it went silent, and I didn't know where she was. When we were in the water, like, because the waves were so high, I didn't have much time to breathe. The wave kept coming, and then I'd get up, and then it'd come again and come again and come again. The lifeguards came, and one of them just ran straight out and just went to my sister, and I said, just go and get Caitlin. Just leave me, go and get Caitlin. Because she's a lot smaller than me, so I didn't want to... My main priority was getting Caitlin out the water before me.
You're going to stand up, Bethany? Do you want me to carry the on? Yeah, please, Alex.
I felt really scared. I didn't realise how sick I actually was. Like, I just felt tired. I was feeling, like, in shock, and, like, I couldn't really speak. I was just overwhelmed over what had happened.
Once at hospital, Bethany and Caitlin were kept under observation for signs of secondary drowning and were later discharged.
That one felt like a good job well done, because it's the work that all the agencies, lifeguards, Lifeboat, Coast Guard, paramedics, all worked well as one team, one unit, to give the best care possible for the two girls.
Like, owe my life to them because of how much they helped us. Like, they were amazing in what they did. You hear things like that happening, but you don't feel like it's actually going to happen until it happens to you. And I feel so lucky to actually be here.
Anyone can be caught unaware. You could be the best swimmer in the world, still get tired, still get cold water shock, still get caught on the rocks, It can happen to anyone. It can happen to us. It was a job well done. It was a rescue. 2 lives saved.
In the summer months, it's not just our beaches that are crammed to capacity. The sea is also packed with pleasure seekers. It's estimated there are over 1 million boats in the UK. Many are moored in one of the largest natural harbours in the world, Poole Harbor in Dorset.
In the summer, we've got loads of holiday makers, plenty of ice cream shops.
The town is busy. It's a popular holiday destination. There's always people coming down. A lot of my friends will ring me up and say, we're coming on holiday to Poole. And it always takes me a second to sort of think, but I live there, it's not a holiday place.
Inevitably, summer is also the busiest time of the year for the crew at Poole Lifeboat Station.
I think during the summer, because there are so many boats out, the chances of something happening is that much higher.
We get our run-of-the-mill service calls to dinghies, jet skis, water sports, but we can have more serious ones where the weather's been pretty horrendous out in Poole Bay, and yeah, our calls just increase twofold.
As well as being home to the headquarters of the RNLI, Poole also boasts a brand new state-of-the-art boathouse.
The boats are kept indoors and they're lifted out clear of the water with a couple of boat lifts, which is really great for maintaining the boats and keeps them protected inside.
On a breezy summer's day with the paint barely dry on the new boathouse, a call comes in from the Coast Guard.
The initial information was people in the water, upturned vessel.
When you get a shout that there's people in the water, I think the sense of urgency goes up quite dramatically. Doesn't matter if the sun's shining, even on the hottest day of the year, people can and do still get hypothermia.
If your body temperature gets low enough and your body organs start to shut down, yeah, hypothermia is certainly a killer.
Within 5 minutes, the crew launched their fastest boat, the Atlantic 85. The information from the Coast Guard is that the casualties are at the opposite end of the harbour to the station. Covering 14 square miles, the harbour boasts 6 marinas and 2 yacht clubs, so the stricken boat is just one of several hundred in the water.
Information can be hard to come by, especially if the first informant or the person who's made the call is perhaps on holiday and they don't even know where they are themselves. So it can be difficult to interpret some of those locations.
A few minutes after launching, the crew receive an update from the Coast Guard.
Just tell them we had the chain ferry. Is it not the chain ferry?
Yeah, we'll divert. We were heading for the chain ferry. We will start heading towards Beta Park.
The crew have been given a new location for the casualties boat, almost a mile back in the opposite direction.
It can be quite frustrating, certainly when you're under time pressure, when you don't have a huge amount of information to go on, because you want to get there as quickly as you possibly can. But if you don't know where they are, then you don't even know where to start looking sometimes.
Retracing their steps, the crew spot 2 people in trouble.
Yep.
Oh yeah, you right?
We arrived on the scene and found the 2 boats. One was turned over. We had 1 casualty that was on the boat that was still floating and 1 casualty in the water.
We'll deal with the boat in a minute. If you just come to us, sir.
Hello. Yeah. Sir.
The teenage boy on the upturned boat appears uninjured. The crew's main concern is the man in the water.
It was clear as soon as we arrived that the casualty that was in the water was a little unsure of his surroundings. I was shouting quite loudly and quite close to him. I was also in a big orange boat, pretty close, and he was completely unaware of our presence at that stage.
Can you get his attention? We're going to get you in this boat, okay?
The young chap that was in the boat looked okay, and he was able to talk to us, and through him I was able to get the attention of the gentleman that was in the water.
It's just the 2 of you, is it? Yeah. Just 2 of you.
They certainly did look concerned when we arrived on scene, and I straight away noticed that he had what looked to be quite a nasty eye injury.
What's this line, sir?
It's holding the sail up.
Okay, cool.
Don't push, it's the sail up.
No, that's fine.
It's fine. Please.
It was very red, not bleeding, but very red and very swollen.
We just get you to spin onto your back, sir.
So we're not just dealing with people in the water, we're potentially dealing with a head injury here at the same time.
We'll bring you in with your back to the boat.
If you get hit in the face quite hard, you can have anything from brain injury to spine to anything really.
The crew need to get the man into the lifeboat as quickly as possible to assess his head injury.
On 3. 1, 2, 3. On hold. And one more. 1, 2, 3.
We're in. Perfect.
Come on.
Just jump in, sir. Jump on that seat there.
The man explains that his eye injury has been caused by a swinging rope from his boat's rigging.
He was a little bit flustered. You could tell that he'd maybe been through something and was, just a little bit shaken up.
We'll come and sort the boats out in a minute.
Now the man is safely on board, the crew's concern turns to the other casualty, whose boat has been capsized for over an hour.
Come on board, mate. Come and sit down in the seat here.
Even in summer, the sea temperature in the harbour can be as low as 12 degrees, meaning hypothermia will set in fast.
Have you been in the water?
He was alert, talking to us nicely, just very, very cold, so we were very worried about his core temperature. So we did our best to wrap him up the warmest we could, and Dave, the helm, made the decision of leaving the casualties' vessels and just getting them out of there, back to an ambulance.
Please, let's get seats. Come and sit yourself on that side.
The crew must now treat 2 casualties on board with very different conditions. With each of them, they must run through a series of vital medical checks.
Signs of hypothermia can be missed, especially once the adrenaline kicks in on the casualty. That can help disguise some of those signs. I think with the younger casualty, he was certainly very cold.
If you say to somebody, "Are you cold?" the automatic response is, "No, I'm fine." So there's a little bit of pride there. So yeah, if there's something more serious, there's every chance you could miss it. But that's why we try and treat people and try and keep them warm.
The crew head back to the station to get the 2 casualties to urgent medical attention. An ambulance is on its way to meet them.
Just going to put his thumb on your forehead just to see how quickly the blood comes back in. That
The eye injury did look really nasty. We could see the eye, or the bottom of the eye, had drooped a little bit. There was a lot of redness and quite a lot of swelling. So where the eye should normally be white, it was very red, very swollen. So with any head injury, it could be life-threatening. We can't see what's going on. So there's possibly development for that getting worse. And actually, we can't see inside the head. We need to get him ashore.
15 minutes after launching, the lifeboat arrives back at the station.
So my colleague's going to look after you, all right?
Yeah, basically I'm fine.
Yeah, we want to get the eye looked at, though. If you've had a bit of a blow to the head or something, we want to get it looked at, OK?
We'll make you a cup of tea and chill out for 5 minutes.
Experienced sailor Gary was taking his 16-year-old grandson Nathan out for his 2nd sailing lesson.
It was fairly calm, there wasn't much of a breeze, so we thought it'd be a good time to go sailing, do a bit of learning where it's low stakes. But when we actually got there, it was a bit windier than we expected, a bit windier than I think I was really ready for. I couldn't remember which way I was turning, and the boat was sort of getting to the limits of where it starts to not really be able to tilt too much more, and I ended up tacking it into the wind, and I ended up just flipping the boat.
I sailed backwards and forwards past him, trying to encourage him to do this and that, and the mainmast had dropped below the waterline, and the sail that filled completely up with water. And there's no way that the 2 of us could spill the water out the sail. I was aware that my strength was ebbing. Fortunately, the lifeboat people turned up very, very quickly, so it never developed into a problem. But who knows? They were better there than not.
After being whisked off to hospital, neither Nathan nor Gary suffered any further ill effects from the incident.
I think every call could have a life and death situation at the end of it. That day, I would hate to think what another 15 minutes or 30 minutes could have happened, because the injury could have got worse to the eye, the young lads could have got colder, and actually the wind could have drifted them further out to sea. So you never know what's going to happen next.
"65 miles north of Poole, on the Severn estuary, lies the town of Portishead.
Portishead is a little town in the top end of the Bristol Channel.
For most people, it's one of those places you most probably go past going down to Cornwall, Devon on holiday.
No, I wouldn't say we're particularly known for anything. There's a band called Portishead, I think.
But the redevelopment of the old industrial dockyards alongside the lifeboat station into a modern marina sees more and more pleasure seekers mooring up to this once sleepy Somerset backwater.
The Bristol Channel has become more popular for leisure boaters. The marina here has extended over the past few years as the town has extended.
A lot of new housing around it. It's an up-and-coming town. In fact, somebody said it was the fastest growing town in Europe once. And so if you liken it with the marina environment, you could call it the Miami of the Southwest.
The lifeboat crew here keep watch over 144 square miles of sea, and in the summer months find themselves increasingly busy as the floodgates open and the tourists pour in.
4.5, 4.3.
Two veterans of the Portishead crew, husband and wife, Kath and Jake, know only too well the dangers these waters hold. They run their own business, teaching people how to use powerboats.
So the Bristol Channel is the second highest tidal range in the world. It's the volume of water that moves around, and that's what generally catches people out. The tide flows anywhere between 5-6 knots, even 7 in certain points of the channel.
A lot of people just don't understand how quickly the tide can flow and how easily that could put them somewhere different. If, for example, they lose their engine power, it can become quite a dangerous place quite quickly.
The powerful tidal flows in the Severn estuary are not its only hazard.
The shipping lane here, where we are, is its narrowest point. You could find yourself impeding a ship fairly quickly. So it does present its unique problems because it's such a narrow channel. Ships here can range from small coaster up to supertanker.
They are huge. They are absolutely massive. You get the wrong side of them at the wrong time. Yeah, you're just a twig. You're gone.
A July evening, the marina is buzzing on yet another busy weekend in Portishead.
I think if you're going to carry a pager, then you have to be prepared for the pages to go off at all times of day or night and on every occasion. It just so happened that this particular shout happened to be our wedding anniversary.
So we're in a restaurant, and that was it. The pager went off, and off we went.
A motor cruiser carrying 2 adults and 2 children has lost all power and is adrift in the middle of the Severn estuary, 9 miles from the station.
They're right in the middle of the shipping lane. The trouble is, the big ships can only see so far ahead of them. If you have a vessel really close, they lose sight. The other issue is they had 2 children on board. Now they're going to be scared.
10 minutes later, the crew are on the water in their Atlantic B-class lifeboat, heading into the Bristol Channel.
When we launched, I remember that the tide was ebbing. We knew that they were going further away from us as we made our way down there, so it was imperative that we got there fairly quickly to identify which boat it was.
The tide is not the only problem. Darkness is also fast approaching. With no power, the motor cruiser will soon be adrift in the busy shipping lanes with no lights.
So you are at the mercy of the sea and everything around you, all the elements around you, which will mean you're incredibly helpless. They were in a fairly dangerous piece of water. There are 2 shipping channels converging there. We've also got some really quite strong tides. So being able to get there and effect a safe rescue was imperative.
15 minutes after launching, the crew find not 1 but 2 boats.
It also had another vessel that it was travelling with standing off the broken down vessel, which would mean that they were easily able to give their position.
In those sort of situations, other vessels will help out and they can tow. In this instance, I don't think they felt, quite sure that they were capable enough to do that.
Jake, the helm, decides to put a crew member, Michael, on board to assess the situation.
Once on board, it was quite obvious. The mum and dad were quite concerned. They all realised the gravity of the situation, that engine failure, it was getting dusky, dark. They were concerned for their safety.
Portishead Lifeboat, this is Portishead crew. Yeah, I've been wondering whether we could transfer the children onto the other vessel and they were going to escort them back in.
Their biggest concern was the safety of their children. They wanted them off of their boat onto their friend's vessel, which was functioning fine, and they wanted them back on shore as quickly as possible.
Have the children both got life jackets on? Yeah. And have you got any coats or anything?
The crew agreed to transfer the 2 children, aged just 11 and 12, onto the friend's boat.
There is always an element of risk. If somebody's transferring from one boat to another, there is an element of risk that they could slip and go into the water, and that's the worst case scenario we want to avoid.
Now, when you're in 2 boats in choppy water, you could get pushed over, you could get impact injuries. There's a lot to go wrong with it.
Okay, ready?
Okay. That's it, straight in.
Come round this way. Come round this way, just sit on the deck.
Okay. Okay, step down.
Okay, come round this way. Yeah.
Okay, clear.
The children were, scared. They were upset.
Was this on your list of things to do tonight then? No, not really. No?
You just start to talk to them. The simple things, just to make them feel at ease.
Shut up, darling. I got you.
Okay.
I got it.
Okay, young man.
Hold my hand. Just wait 1, 2, 3. Okay. What about mother?
The children safely aboard the friend's boat. The crew now turn their attention to the stricken vessel.
Okay.
Okay.
So then it was a case of management of where we're going to get this vessel into safely, which harbour.
The crew decide to establish a tow line to pull the boat out of the shipping lanes, which are busy as ever.
Yeah.
So that vessel looks like it's changed course.
With so many large commercial vessels passing by, the broken-down motor cruiser is currently a sitting duck.
Ships can slow down. The issue here is that there are such strong tides, so the ships use the channel for a very good reason, because around the Bristol Channel you've got a lot of moving sandbanks.
They don't have any magic brakes. They're just going to keep coming up the channel.
Racing the encroaching darkness, a line between the 2 vessels is secured on the first throw. The Portishead crew now start the slow journey towards Cardiff, around 15 miles away, where they'll be met by another lifeboat that will take over the tow.
We knew they were on their way to us. We were happy to take it into Cardiff, but it was quite a long way then into our patch. We'd be right on the very edge of our patch, and they know the waters a bit better than us down there.
After an hour, the Portishead crew rendezvous with Barry Dock lifeboat, and the motor launch is towed into port. Steve and his wife Claire have been boating for over 20 years. They'd just spent the day with their 2 children at the Bristol Harbor Festival.
Came out at the end of the Avon. It was a bit choppy, it wasn't bad, but the first instance I knew was when one of the rev counters started flickering, and you know then that you're starting to lose power. You can feel it.
When the first engine went, I thought,
oh, this is going to take us a long time to get back now on one engine, obviously, because we're going to be going a lot slower. We're going to be getting back to Cardiff sort of 8 o'clock in the night now.
You're still safe with the one engine, but then when the second engine started flickering, that's when, you know, my heart did sink then.
I thought, oh, you know, this is quite serious now. We are literally floating round in the shipping lane, knowing that those big ships are coming and there's no way they can stop and there's no way we can move out of their way. So it was scary, yeah.
When the Portishead lifeboat got to us, it was a sense of relief, but, you know, I mean, it's not something that, being a boaty person, that you want to experience very often.
I think I was stressed until we got into Cardiff and I got off the pontoon. I think I was stressed until then, 1 o'clock in the morning.
Without them, God knows where we'd have been, you know. We'd have probably wouldn't have had a boat anymore. And I mean, at the end of the day, lives are worth more than a bit of fiberglass. So.
Anything can happen at sea. It's very easy to suddenly lose engine power. It's very easy for things to go wrong on a boat. Anything can change in an instant.
The vessel itself, you know, it was in a precarious position. It could have been a lot worse. It could have got a lot worse very quickly. At the end of the day, they did the right thing by calling for help early. And that's the point, calling for help early. A lot of people leave it too late when they're really in dire straits. We always want to be called early. Always want to be called early.
Back home in Northampton, a month after fracturing a vertebrae, co-steering casualty Glynis is back on her feet and on the road to recovery.
I can get about. I still need to use crutches if I'm going to walk a distance, but I've started physiotherapy now, so that's helping.
Glynis still has her old lust for life, although she has had to somewhat lower her sights.
I think I'll be doing gentler pursuits, and next year when we're down in Cornwall, I will definitely be trying paddleboarding, and I'll still be going bodyboarding, but I don't think I'll be jumping for them anywhere anytime soon.
In Dorset, Gary and grandson Nathan had their boats returned by the Poole lifeboat crew. Gary's bloodied and battered eye is now back on an even keel.
It was seriously bloodshot.
It was pretty awful to look at.
Everybody said how awful it was, and I didn't appreciate it until I looked in the mirror and frightened myself. You know, if I'd known it was that bad, I would have been a bit more concerned. Yeah.
Undeterred by their capsizing experience, they're already planning their next sailing adventure.
I'm definitely hoping to get back on the water at some point. My friend's got a dinghy as well, so we might go out and mess about on that and just learn.
We don't want to repeat the experience, so we'll make sure that next time we do not trouble the people from the lifeboat. They were wonderful, but yes, let's leave them alone next time.